The Ranger has been updated more than any other class in D&D over the past decade. Yet here we are in 2024 and it's still bad. Hey there adventurers, I'm Judd and this is Short Rest Studios, where we dive into everything D&D, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Shadowdark, and any tabletop RPG I can get my hands on. If you're into that, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on the shenanigans around here, and maybe you'd consider joining the Adventurers Guild on Patreon. That link's down below. The Ranger has purportedly been completely revamped in the latest Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. Well, I finally got myself a copy, and it has been. And I'll go ahead and say this up front, the Ranger class is better in the 2024 PHB. And today on Short Rest Studios, I'm giving you 5 ways it's better than the original. And stick around to the end, because I'm also going to give you 3 ways it's really not. Up front, I want to say that these are just the things that jumped out at me when comparing the 2 versions of the Ranger. This is not a complete overview. If that's something you want, let me know in the comments. And I won't really be covering broader changes that affect the way a Ranger works in D&D, like weapon mastery. I'm only looking at pages 118 to 127 in the new PHB, which are dedicated to the class. The first improvement to the Ranger class in the 2024 Player's Handbook: more subclasses. What were known as archetypes for the 2014 Ranger are now subclasses. I mean, that's what they were anyway, but in the new book, Wizards of the Coast has standardized a lot of the terms, so now they're called subclasses, and I think that's a good change. And of course, there were only 2 archetypes in 2014, Beastmaster and Hunter. In 2024, the Ranger gets some subclass love. There are now 4, count them, 4 Ranger subclasses. You've got the beloved Beastmaster Ranger, who forms a mystical bond with an animal companion, and the Hunter Ranger, who, you know, hunts. There's the Fey Wanderer Ranger, who's been imbued with Fey magic. That's not the right picture. Oh, that's definitely not the right one. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry. And then there's the Gloomstalker Ranger, who wields magic from the Shadowfell. And of course, those last 2 originated in Xanathar's and Tasha's, so they're technically not new, but you're going to find that a lot in 2024 D&D. I still think, though, that it counts as an upgrade because those options are now baked into the class without the need for additional books. In the 2014 PHB, different classes had different numbers of archetypes, but now all of them have 4 subclasses, which puts the Ranger on equal footing with everyone else, at least in this instance. Improvement number 2 for the 2024 Ranger class: first level spellcasting. The life of a first level Ranger in 2014 was dull, drab, bereft of magic. They were always sad, everything was in black and white, but level 2? Man, that was like season 2 of Gilligan's Island, only funnier. I don't even know what that means. But now the Ranger lives in glorious 4K with millions of colors right from the start. Okay, I'll stop. In 2024, the Ranger gets magic right from level 1. You get 2 spells and 2 spell slots. After that, your magical abilities progress like they did in 2014. It's not a huge change, and given how many campaigns actually start at level 3 or higher, it may be one that nobody notices. But if you have ever played that level 1 Ranger, you know what it's like to be even worse than a fighter. At least now you can cast a couple of spells. Third on our list of ways the Ranger is better in 2024, more fighting styles. So this kind of skirts the line of broader changes, but I felt like it was specific enough to include here. Rather than a list of fighting styles in individual class sections like we had in the previous PHB, there's a single list of fighting style feats in Chapter 5 of the new book that the martial classes get to choose from. In 2014, the Ranger had 4 fighting styles: archery, defense, dueling, and 2-weapon fighting. But now, along with fighter and paladin, the only other classes that have access to the fighting style feature, you have a whopping 10 fighting styles available. With the archery feat, you have a +2 bonus to attacks with ranged weapons. Blind fighting gives you blind sight with a range of 10 feet. The defense feat gives you +1 to your AC if you're wearing armor. Dueling gives you +2 to damage with melee weapons. With great weapon fighting, you get to treat a 1 or 2 on a damage die as a 3 as long as you're using a 2-handed or versatile weapon. There's interception, protection, thrown weapon fighting, 2-weapon fighting, and unarmed fighting. Some of those don't make sense for a Ranger. Actually, who am I to tell you what makes sense for your character? Go for it. You can also choose the Druidic Warrior option instead of one of those feats, which lets you take a couple of Druid cantrips. I will say, I think this takes a good bit of flavor away from the Ranger as a class and makes it feel less distinct, but overall I think it's a gameplay improvement. Our fourth improvement to the 2024 Ranger is the new Favored Enemy. In the 2014 edition, Favored Enemy was one of those features that sounded okay on paper, but didn't make a whole lot of sense in practice. Basically, you'd pick a category of enemy and you'd always have advantage when tracking that type of enemy. You'd also learn a language spoken by that class of enemy. And like I said, it sounds okay, not even all that good really, but what would happen if your DM wanted to preserve the mystery and didn't want to tell you what categories of enemies you were going to be facing? That's completely the DM's prerogative, and it means there's a good chance your favorite enemy feature could be completely irrelevant. In 2024, Favored Enemy is completely overhauled. It's streamlined and frankly a ton more useful, and spoiler alert, this is one of the best improvements to the class, but it also points us to one of the worst things about the updated Ranger, which we will talk about later in this video. With the new and improved Favored Enemy, you always have Hunter's Mark prepared, and you can cast it twice a day without using a spell slot. That number goes up at different levels. That's it. That's the whole feature. Hunter's Mark, of course, allows you to do an extra 1d6 damage to the marked enemy, and that can be any enemy. Finally, the fifth improvement to the 2024 Ranger that I want to talk about today, Primal Companion. Possibly the first image that comes to mind when fantasy nerds like us think of the classic Ranger is that animal companion. Picture Drizzt and Guinevere. Listen, everyone pronounces those names differently. Bob Salvatore pronounces them different in different interviews. Cut me a break, okay? For a lot of people, me included, the Ranger's animal companion in 5e is a real sticking point. Only the Beastmaster archetype gets it. You choose a beast that, of course, has a pretty low AC and hit points. In combat, you have to use an action to command it to attack, which means you and your companion can't both attack on your turn until you get to level 5 and get an extra attack. And these animals are supposed to be lifelong companions that grow with your character, but they're easy to kill. And if they do die, well, you can just replace them by spending 8 hours magically bonding with whatever animal you want. My trusty Mastiff Lord Baltimore has died. Oh, there's a squirrel. Squirrel! That seem right to you? But the 2024 PHB replaces the Ranger's Companion feature with Primal Companion. As with the 2014 rules, you still have to take the Beastmaster subclass to get it, and you still choose an animal, but being supernatural, instead of using the animal's basic stat block with some modification, your Primal Companion uses one of these 3 stat blocks provided in the subclass: Beast of the Land, Beast of the Sky, or Beast of the Sea. Each one has an AC of 13 plus your wisdom modifier and substantially more hit points than a regular beast, as well as some other cool features. And if your primal companion dies, as long as you can get to them within an hour, you can use a spell slot to resurrect them. Frankly, I think that's a little too easy, but it's better than just picking a random animal and bonding with them on the rebound. Of course, you can also replace them with a new primal companion basically once a day, so still better. Adventurers, today's episode is sponsored by Adventures in Moxxur, Sickness in the Swamp, the latest 5e adventure from Cave Gaming. A dark curse has fallen, and the village's only hope for survival lies in the depths of a sinister swamp. To battle a mysterious illness that spreads unabated, an old medicine woman enlists your party to brave the witches, hags, and twisted horrors of the swamp to hunt down the ingredients for a cure. Will you uncover the truth behind this cursed illness, or will you fall prey to the treacherous magic of the swamp? Compatible with D&D 5e and Kobold Press's Black Flag role-playing system, Sickness in the Swamp can be dropped into your existing campaign as a one-shot or longer, and it's balanced for 4 to 5 level 3 PCs. The 20-plus page PDF includes new monsters like the Plague Gator and the Muck Fairy, pre-generated heroes, random encounters, and a bunch more. Click the link in the description to check out the Kickstarter. So that was the good. Now for the bad. The first downgrade to the Ranger class in 2024, the Hunter subclass, has been too stripped down. Back in 2014, the Hunter's Prey feature gave you 3 options: Colossus Slayer, Giant Killer, and Horde Breaker. that would allow you to do extra damage in specific situations. Now, Giant Killer now is gone, and the other two didn't change at all. Same goes for the defensive tactics feature. You used to have 3 options: Escape the Horde, multi-attack defense, and Steel Will. Steel Will has been axed. That could be good, or that could be bad, or it could mean nothing. Depends on your point of view. The multi-attack feature is gone, and Superior Hunter's Defense no longer has options. It just gives you a reaction to resist damage from a type of attack during a turn. I appreciate streamlining, I really do, but it feels like they stripped things away without really adding much of value. The second downgrade. I hope you like Hunter's Mark. Remember earlier when I said that the new favored enemy is just Hunter's Mark, and how that overhaul was a sign of one of the worst things about this update? Hang on to that thought. The only real addition to the Hunter subclass is a feature called Superior Hunter's Prey. When you damage a creature you've put your Hunter's Mark on, you can deal the spell's extra damage to another creature too. And that's cool too, right? That's 2 features that depend on Hunter's Mark. At level 13, all Rangers get a feature called Relentless Hunter. Taking damage can't break your concentration on, you guessed it, Hunter's Mark. At level 17, Precise Hunter gives you advantage on attacks against the creature bearing your Hunter's Mark. Everybody's moved on to new characters and campaigns at this point anyway, but at level 20, the new and improved Foe Slayer feature finally bumps that extra damage for Hunter's Mark from a D6 to a D10. Wow. The Beastmaster's Bestial Fury feature and Hunter's Lore in the Hunter subclass also rely on Hunter's Mark. I think that's it. None of these things are necessarily bad. It just seems weird to me and a bit unimaginative to have so many features that rely on this one spell. It's a good spell, but what if you wanted something different? And why does it take so dang long to up that extra damage? Finally, the third way the Ranger really isn't any better. The class still feels redundant. As a concept, I really love the Ranger archetype. Aragorn in Lord of the Rings is this cool loner who knows nature and lore, and he's skilled in combat. Oh, and he doesn't have a bow. And Drizzt is great. He has the animal companion, 2-weapon fighting. He does have a bow. He's a tracker, he's stealthy. But the fact of the matter is, almost everything a Ranger does in D&D is done better by somebody else. Paladins and clerics heal and fight, druids cast spells and know nature. On top of that, in both of these players' handbooks, the class feels unfocused, like there's no real central idea defining it. Supposedly the tracking and the understanding of nature combined with combat are at its core, but probably 2/3 of that winds up being pretty meaningless in D&D. The Ranger in D&D isn't really a Ranger. Incidentally, my friend Bob Worldbuilder made a video about this idea recently. I'll link to that below. And even if it was really a Ranger, I wonder if it even belongs in the game. These tree stat blocks. Your primal companion is a tree.